Hello everyone, Trainmaster04 here and welcome back to my channel. As you can see up in the right hand corner, the date is currently Wednesday, July 17th and is currently an hour after, as if you already know, is the Lionel Volume 2 catalog. Now, as stated in my post 5 days ago, I was going to go ahead and post a video on this catalog and not go ahead and actually wait and ask if any of y'all would want to see a video, since typically most of the videos or most of the voting polls that I post around this time of the year, twice a year, it typically ends up being to where I come in and go and make a video for you all. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the Lionel Volume 2 catalog. Now, like usual, there were many, and I mean many, forms of spoilers, as Lionel somehow was able to get the physical copies of the Volume 2 catalog out to private individuals a day before its release. So I do not know if the U.S. Postal Service, for some reason, decided to actually be early and prompt with its shipping policies with these catalogs, or if Lionel went ahead and sent these out a little sooner than they anticipated. But without further ado, the Volume 2 catalog overall, in my opinion, is actually one of the best Volume 2 catalogs I have seen in quite a while. It definitely feels like a Volume 2 catalog you would have expected to have received in the 2014 era, where, in my opinion, Lionel was really swinging with full force and was doing great stuff and producing great products. Now, to be expected, the Volume 2 catalog is a lot smaller and doesn't contain as much product as compared to the Volume 1, and as a result, this Volume 2 catalog, even though, as you could see, has the observation car from the Polar Express, since this is the second catalog of the year and is the last catalog for the 2024 season. This catalog, unfortunately, does not include any new 20th anniversary Polar Express items and hardly any Christmas items at all, but that is to be expected from a Volume 2 catalog, and really, what should you expect from one? Getting into it, the first major announcement is actually a re-release of the Vision Line GG1s. Now, the Vision Line GG1s were last issued in the 2016 Volume 1 catalog as the first issue of a Vision Line locomotive, and in this case the original Vision Line GG1s were quite nice. In this case, Lionel used the famous JLC, or Joshua Lionel Cowan series tooling to make these beautiful die-cast models, minus any of the zinc rot from what I've heard, but at the same time included many nice little Vision Line details, such as the pantograph or catenary sparking, and also the standard Vision Line features such as smoke, surround sound, and the 2016 models were just fantastic. Now, for the Lionel 2024 version, Lionel has decided to increase the price tag, unfortunately, and in this case, the price tag for a brand new Vision Line or updated Vision Line GG1 is right at $1,600, whereas back in 2016, the price tag for a Vision Line GG1 many years ago would have been $1,400. So between the two, there has been an increase of $300, which is surprising considering that really, feature-wise, both of these locomotives are nearly identical. The only difference between the two is actually the electronics within. In this case, the electronics on the modern GG1s include the new 4-digit addressing system, which is perfect timing considering that the Cab 3 or Base 3 is actually meant to be out for delivery to private individuals. I have gotten word a few days ago from Mr. Muffin's Trains that they have received their pallet load of Base 3s, so the rest of the Base 3s should be coming into dealers sometime soon. Now, with the new electronics within the new Vision Line GG1s, or I should say updated Vision Line GG1s, since that's really what these are, is basically better conventional mode control, where it has a better slow input processing system to where when you put power to the locomotive, it doesn't take off at full force, but instead has a little bit more of a gradual startup. It has the 5-horn customization experience as well as with the bell, and so really just some more sound features than what you would expect. Now, I am kind of interested in knowing why Lionel continued with the IR transmitter for the sensor track. I know in this case the sensor track is still used by many people, but considering that the new Base 3 has almost immediate information connection between user and the locomotives, specifically it has all the data information already put into the app once the Base 3 and the app or the Cab 3 are recognized, then in this case it really kind of defeats the purpose for an IR sensor track. But I can definitely understand people who do not want to use the Base 3 or do not want to commit to a Base 3, then in that case this would be the better alternative. For the minimum curve radius, it is still 072 with a length of 20 inches, so this beast is really a beast, especially with the solid 12-wheel drivers and then the pilot wheels up front, but really is a nice addition in my opinion, considering the GG1s haven't been seen since 2016. For road names, Conrail is one that I think will be highly sought after, since we really do not get to see a lot of Conrail stuff from Lionel. We've also got the Congressional. Lionel is going back to some of their roots with the GG1s. In this case, they are really putting out some famous road names that we didn't get to see in 2016, such as the Congressional with a beautiful silver and red paint scheme similar to that seen from the JLC series. For passenger cars, Lionel is offering a 4-pack, 2-pack, and single Station Sounds Diner. As usual, the 4-pack has increased in price as of the last few years to $1,300. The Station Sounds Diner as well, $500 for a single car, which in my opinion, the station sound cars or sound cars such as the school car have really been lacking in structure, as well as, more importantly, have been lacking really any kind of creativity. In this case, I have a friend who bought a fire training car and then also a Union Pacific school car, and both of them use the same sound system within each other, and it really just kind of bugged us because you spend X amount of dollars and you get the same thing just with a different shell. The 2-pack, it is $600, so instead of getting any sounds, you just get another car, making each individual standard car to be $300 a piece, which in my opinion is a little bit too extreme. The next set, or style I should say, is the Senator with the Tuscan red and pinstriping, 5 pinstripe. Typical of what you would have seen in the Lionel post-war era. Very nice in this case. Similar passenger cars as the previous page, but in this case Lionel has also added to a heavyweight 2-pack. In this case they are $550 for the 2-pack, so that is understandable considering that the heavyweights are a little bit cheaper to produce. And then we get into the Spirit of St. Louis, or Spirit of St. Louis. And in this case, the passenger cars are different, and both GG1s are a little bit different as well. In this case, there is the Brunswick Green in 2 different versions of pinstriping. In this case, the first one is the 5 pinstripe with large lettering and numbering, and the second one is smaller pinstriping, less bolder lettering and numbering, and is in a bit of a darker green. Not necessarily the same, but it appears on my screen and on my end it seems to be a little bit darker. Price tag for both of those units are still the $1,700. And for the passenger cars, in this case, the passenger cars are a little bit cheaper. For the 4-pack, you are looking at $1,000. The 2-pack does include a Station Sounds Diner, so instead of getting a $500 single car, you get 2 cars for $700, a little bit better. And then for the second 2-pack, in this case it's a normal 2-pack, you get both for $500. A little bit of a better deal in my opinion. And in this case, these are the modernism fleet, or the fleet of modernism styled kind of cars. Still the 21-inch instead of the 18-inch, so you get a little bit more passenger car for a better price tag. Then we get into the Penn Central, another road name that you do not get to see very often, and another road name I do believe will actually be well accepted in the community. In this case, there are two variations of the Penn Central, engine number 4906 and 4908. One with the P in a red highlighted symbol, and then the 4908 in a standard Penn Central. Very nice in my opinion, and something that I'm glad Lionel went ahead and made, because we really need some Penn Central diversity, so to speak. For the passenger cars, these again are the 18-inch aluminum, so that's one of the reasons why they are a little bit more expensive, because they are aluminum bodies instead of ABS. So a little bit better. Same prices as shown earlier. Then we get into some Amtrak stuff. In this case, it is the United States Saving Bonds version, engine number 921. And for the Amtrak, this is really in the era of the Rainbow series, since the GG1s ran between the 1930s all the way up into the late 1900s. Considering these locomotives were built by the Pennsylvania Railroad, they definitely had wonderful careers beyond the lifespan of the Pennsylvania Railroad, reaching out to Conrail, Amtrak, and even Penn Central when the New York Central and Pennsylvania Railroads combined. And of course, it would make sense for Lionel to go ahead and make an Amtrak version, since that's another one of the famous road names associated with the GG1s. Now, since this is the Rainbow era, Lionel has replicated a Rainbow era feeling passenger set, in this case a mixture of actual Amtrak painted passenger cars such as a Station Sounds Diner for 480 in a Phase 1 paint scheme, a 2-pack Rainbow which includes, looks like either a Union Pacific or a Southern Pacific Yellow, or even Milwaukee Road possibly, with a Seaboard Coastline passenger car for a whopping $500. Then they offer a 4-pack and a single power car. The power car is also in the Amtrak paint scheme. In this case, it is the Phase 2 for $400. It includes the generator sounds that do automatically play, and other basic features such as kinematic couplers and whatnot. And then for the 4-pack, these are in the Rainbow paint scheme of Santa Fe, Great Northern, Northern Pacific, and then again the Phase 1 Amtrak paint scheme for $1,000. Again, considering these are the 21-inch passenger cars, I would much rather take a 21-inch passenger car over the aluminum 18-inchers, but then again, the aluminum 18-inchers are nice considering they have good heft, but it just depends on your personal opinion and what you're willing to go and pay for material-wise. For another Amtrak, Lionel is still sticking with their early Rainbow era, but in this case, Lionel is also offering Phase 1 passenger cars, again in the 18-inch aluminum, so same prices, same arrangement where you get a 4-pack, 2-pack, and then a single Station Sounds Diner. And then something that we haven't really seen from Lionel since the 2017s would be the American Railroads. The American Railroads was meant to be a commemorative train designed to celebrate the centennial of the Transcontinental Railroad. And in this case, Lionel has gone ahead and made a GG1 in this, as well as a nice selection of passenger cars. In this case, it is a little bit more extensive. The first set is a B60 baggage car 3-pack for $900. These will be 18 inches, and there are many other B60 baggage cars later on in different road names, which we'll get to later on in this video. Lionel has also included a twin unit diner, which one includes a Station Sound sound system for $700. A 4-pack of the 21-inch passenger cars for $1,000, and then a standard 2-pack, again the 21-inch passenger cars for $500. A very nice set that I think a lot of people will end up just getting the passenger cars or the GG1 just to add it to their current fleet of American railroads. But I have a feeling the reason why it will be the either or is due to, one, the price tag, and two, because MTH and Lionel in the past offered scale Berkshires similar to the nickel plate road 765. In this case, it would have been NKP 759, if I remember correctly. Pulled the actual American Railroad's passenger train and was painted in this beautiful blue and gold. Please do correct me, but don't persecute me if I'm incorrect on my information. It's been a while since I've touched this subject, so I have a feeling that most customers will end up going for the passenger cars to add it to their current fleet and use it with one of their steam locomotives, or they'll go ahead and get the GG1 with it, which I think would be very rare to go and get both the passenger set and the GG1 alone, or they'll just get the GG1 because it's so unique. Then we begin into the sets. Now, on the sets themselves, for the first time of me ever doing these catalog reviews, I've actually gone ahead and done some number crunching and compared prices between actually purchasing each individual item from the set and to see if it would be cheaper to buy the set as a whole or actually going and picking and choosing what cars you want from the catalog and putting a train set together. And in this case, the GG1 set is actually quite impressive. A little lacking in some of the cars, but then again, it's a GG1. You would typically pull passenger cars other than freight trains. And in this case, the Pennsylvania Railroad Vision Line GG1 freight set has a whopping $2,600 price tag. Now, this does include some quite impressive cars with it. In this case, it includes, of course, a GG1. A hotbox reefer, which Lionel brought back in the Volume 1 catalog from this year. A Pensalt 8,000 gallon tank car, perfect for any steam era railroad or transitioning era. A Pennsylvania TOFC flat car with 2 piggyback trailers. A Timken Freight Sounds boxcar. A Pennsylvania X31 boxcar, which has that wagon top curved roof. And then also a Pennsylvania Railroad Vision Line N5 cabin car, which is similar to the previous Vision Line cabooses, and which included some sounds such as rail sounds, a single electrocoupler, some LED lighting, and also operational LED marker lights. In this case, after going through the catalog and finding the same cars, or going over to the Volume 1 catalog from this year to find similar Rail Sounds boxcars, the conclusion is, in this case, this set is actually a much better deal than compared to actually pick and choosing what cars you want individually. The price comparison is from $2,600. The individual pricing would be $2,870 roughly. Now, this price could vary depending on what car you pick and choose, but based off of this template of what cars are available in this set alone, that's the price tag I have found. Now, Lionel has also offered a couple of other cabin cars. In this case, the price tag is $300. Fairly pricey considering these cars are nothing new tooling-wise, and the technology is nothing crazy nor something fancy to talk about really that much. But you could probably still get a better deal from a dealership such as Mr. Muffin's Trains, or even your local dealership. And finally, another more interesting GG1 Lionel has offered is the Vision Line GG1 number 4800. Still the same price tag at $1,700, but it has a nice Brunswick green paint scheme, Keystone Pennsylvania Railroad shield, and also different striping with the air vents. Instead of being up on the nose, it's actually on the side skirting. So a lot of nice variations of the GG1s in my opinion. For another set, Lionel, as I stated earlier, is really getting back to their post-war heritage roots. And in this case, they are producing a post-war inspired 2124W Madison set. Now, if you go back into your Lionel history books, when the GG1s first came out, Lionel produced this with the Madison or Manhattan cars, or even the Irvington cars. And in this case, this set was a 3-passenger car set. And at first, when I looked through this catalog, I was thinking, oh, they really skimped out on this passenger set with only putting in 3 heavyweight styled passenger cars. And then I remembered, no, this is prototypical in the sense of post-war history. In this case, Lionel is painting their scale GG1 to look like the actual post-war 2332 GG1 from the good old days, with that classic, more lighter Brunswick green 5 striping, pinstriping. Hopefully they won't rub off like the original GG1s. And then the Madison cars have some nice homage as well. In this case, they include Madison, Irvington, and Manhattan along the side. And if you wanted to add more cars to your set, Lionel is also offering 3 individual cars. A baggage car named the Santa Clara for $500. An observation car named Concord, again something reminiscent to the Lionel post-war celebration series, or in the era of Richard Kuhn when they actually completed this set with an observation car, baggage car. Speaking of which, the baggage car is $300, and a Station Sounds diner labeled Chesterfield at $500. A nice set that I'm definitely going to be considering as a possibility, since this is a nice homage to Lionel's post-war era, and I could definitely see this being a good collector's item for a lot of people, considering it has been a while since Lionel has made a homage set from a very classic post-war set. Probably the last one I can think of that included a nice Manhattan or Irvington car that was scale would have been the anniversary set from the late 90s to early 2000s, which included a scale TMCC J3A? Yes, a J3A Hudson, and it included, it was meant to represent and pay homage to the 1950 passenger set with the post-war 773 Hudson. For the price tag, it is fairly reasonable at $2,400. Unfortunately, I did not crunch the numbers on this, since this is really the only set that includes these heavyweight cars. And then we get into some LLCA exclusive content, and this should be also this is the last GG1 available. So if you are a member of the Lionel Collectors Club of America, this is your exclusive GG1 and a Tuscan red 5-stripe paint scheme with the 2340 number at the same price of $1,700. And for the general public, you can also get these nice aluminum 18-inch scale passenger cars with the Lionel Lines lettering on the side of it for the same price tags as compared to the other aluminum 18-inch passenger cars. For B60 baggage cars, in this case, these baggage cars are priced at a hefty price tag of $300 a piece. This does not mean they have sounds. Instead, they are just standard ABS bodies with die-cast trucks and frames, some decent separately applied details, and nice couplers. In this case, I was incorrect about the length. They are 16¼ inches long and have a minimum curve radius of 0.42. So, a decent car, but not worth the price tag in my opinion. Yet again, some more baggage cars. In this case, these are actually more expensive and actually do have good sounds in them. In this case, these are Vision Line B60 baggage cars. In this case, they include interior marker lights, an electrocoupler, and some other dialogue when stopped, and have different 3 scenarios, similar to the Vision Line PFE reefers from the past. And the price tag on these is $500. Still questionable in my opinion. Now, going over to, instead of the steam, instead the diesel section, this is where things get a little bit more interesting. In this case, Lionel is producing yet even more SD70 ACEs. In this case, they are producing the Norfolk Southern Heritage units, a few more, and the Penn Central, Reading lines, and the Savannah and Atlanta. They are producing two variations, one as a powered at $700 and then a non-powered, that is not shown, at $350. In my opinion, I would much rather go ahead for the non-powered, as the recent batch of SD70s Lionel's been producing have really been down in quality and the amount of pulling power these units can have. I have visited a friend who purchased a number of these SD70s recently and put about 5 to 10 cars behind a single unit, and it took about 15 speed steps before the unit actually was able to overcome the weight behind it, which in this case is not a lot compared to a diesel this size, and really was well underpowered. So I would much rather go and suggest a non-powered unit if you're getting any of these SD70s for their paint schemes, because it would save you much more money in the long run. Lionel is also offering a few other NS Heritage units, also in the Wabash and Virginian. Again, I would rather suggest you go ahead for the non-powered, as well as a Ferromex, another interesting paint scheme that I could definitely see a lot of people going and purchasing. And finally, getting out of the SD70 fleet, we are into the SD70M-2s. These units, again, similar to the other units, are well painted and also are offered in non-powered and powered. And it looks like, in this case, they are going to be actually a combination of both powered and non-powered. In this case, the Grand Trunk, or the Canadian National Heritage unit, is going to be offered in a powered and non-powered, same pricing as shown before. And then for the Maine Northern and Susquehanna, it's actually going to be two powered versions, one with a number 6405, 6406, both at $700. And then for the Susquehanna, 4060 and 4062, again at $700. In this case, if I had the choice, I would go with the Grand Trunk non-powered because, again, the SD70's pulling power really does not match the price tag. And then we get over into the C-liners. The C-liners hadn't been out of the picture for very long, but in this case, the original C-liners Lionel put out a few years ago were the passenger version. And in this case, Lionel is following up the success of the original C-liners with the freight version. In this case, the freight version for road names and prices include the Canadian National. Lionel is offering two A units, 93,000 and 9302, both at $600 a piece. And then a super base version, 9301, for $500. Other road names include Canadian Pacific, Milwaukee Road, Pennsylvania, and New York Central. So really a nice, good road name fleet for whatever you're looking for with these unique style diesel locomotives. And then we get into something of more of my speed, the famous Alco PAs, the honorary steam locomotives, as a lot of people like to call them, due to their failed prime movers producing just as the same amount of smoke as compared to a steam locomotive, which is something to laugh about in my opinion, considering that these Alco PAs were just so beautiful and were given so many brightly colored paint schemes, yet every time they go onto the main line, they just get completely dirtied. In this case, the Alco PAs are nicely detailed in many nice road names, Santa Fe, of course, and the Santa Fe War Bonnet, the Erie, New Haven, Southern, and the Tuxedo, Black and White, and the Southern Pacific. And, of course, the Nickel Plate Road and the beautiful blue and white paint scheme. Definitely a diesel locomotive that deserves all these wonderful paint schemes. In comparison, the last time we saw the Alco PAs would have been Lionel's 2021 Volume 1 catalog, and Lionel at the time only offered these in 2A unit configurations instead of a 2A and Super Base B or B unit alone. For the AA sets, the 2021 price tag was right at $1,000, whereas in comparison to the brand new ones, they have a $200 increase of $1,200. Pretty interesting considering that it has only been roughly 3 years since we last saw the Alco PAs, and there's already been a $200 increase. I know everything has gone up in the last few years, but it still just seems a little fishy in my opinion. Now, I will say the Alco PAs do dearly need some form of a B unit, so I'm kind of glad Lionel actually went ahead and is going to be producing Super Bass B units at $500 a piece to really give the Alco PAs a nice long look that you typically see on the main line. For this run-up of 5 Alco PAs on these 2 pages, there are not any passenger cars to go with them. And instead, the only passenger cars that are available with an Alco PA would be the Nickel Plate Road. The Nickel Plate Road passenger cars are the standard 21-inch passenger cars with the $1,000 price tag for the 4-pack and the $500 for the 2-pack with a minimum curve radius of 0.54. And then the Station Sounds Diner does have a $480 price tag just like the others. For the minimum curve radius on these Alco PAs, it is expected to be 0.36, considering the Alco PA's pilots are attached to the wheel sets, and in this case it allows it to turn independently from the body and not cause any problems with the coupler binding up against any cars you run behind it. So a nice touch. Then we get into some Halloween, which is kind of strange. The order of this catalog is fairly different than compared to normal Lionel catalogs. In this case, Lionel is just offering some of the same locomotives that you would normally see, but in a Halloween paint scheme. In this case, Lionel's offering the Alco PA and an AA plus B unit set with the 21-inch passenger cars with a Halloween Doomliner 21-inch Station Sounds Superdome at a price tag of $500. But the most interesting that we'll get to see later on in this catalog is Lionel is bringing back the Lionmaster tooled J3 Hudsons, or J3A Hudsons, excuse me, with a price tag of $800. Now, the last time I reviewed a Lion Chief Plus 2.0 locomotive would have been Lionel's attempt at reproducing the MTH Rail King Doodlebug. And in my opinion, in that video, I was not highly impressed with the Doodlebugs, considering the price tag of $400 did not really meet the quality nor the standards I would expect for a $400 model in the present. So in this case, with the J3A Hudsons, considering that these are die-cast models and were made in the former Lionmaster lineup, I would have higher expectations for these models to be much better than the plastic Rail King models from MTH, then converted over to Lionel, and to be a much better unit. So I may go ahead and get one of these and then just to review and sell it later on down the road. Then again, I may love it, I may hate it. So really, for review purposes, I may get one. Not necessarily the Halloween version with the glow-in-the-dark paint scheme, which is cool and all, but not really my cup of tea. For other things, Lionel is also offering more personalized stuff in the Halloween lineup, which is turning out to be quite a popular setup. And then we get into more diesels. The layout of this catalog is really convoluted, in my opinion. It just goes everywhere. In this case, we are back in the diesels with the SW1 switchers with Amtrak, Cargill, Dubik, and Sand and Gravel. Excuse me if I just mispronounced that. Manufacturers Junction, New York Central, Lehigh Valley, and Western Pacific. Nice little diesel shunters with a, should be an 031, yep, 031 wheel minimum curve radius with the 4-digit addressing, which is nice considering that Lionel is finally going to be producing locomotives that have the official 4-digit addressing system, considering their base 3 is meant to be coming out this month. And the price tag for these little units is a little expensive in my opinion, with $550 at MSRP. These locomotives do have full legacy in them and do have nice paint schemes with smoke units in them, but for such a small little shunting locomotive with primarily plastic parts with some nice die-cast and separately applied details, I'm not too convinced at the $550 price tag. Then we get into some more older road diesels with the SD40-2s. Unfortunately, these are not the tunnel motor variations from the Southern Pacific, which in my opinion are much more nicer looking than the standard SD40-2s. In this case, they are producing the Aberdeen, Carolina, and Western, another road name a lot of people will probably be going for. Price tag is right at $650 with a minimum curve radius of 0.54. Definitely a longer sized unit of a locomotive. For other road names, Lionel's producing the Canadian Pacific and the Chicago and Northwestern. With some other different road names, they are also producing the Susquehanna, Reading and Northern, another road name a lot of people will probably be getting. The Sioux, again a beautiful paint scheme in the red and white. And the VMW number 2000, an NREX rental locomotive. And then finally we get into the steam, which in this case I'm highly excited to talk about because, well, primarily I model in steam, but also there's a lot of stuff to go over in this section of the catalog. First up, the Y6bs have finally made a return. The last time we saw the Y6bs were way back 10 years ago in 2014, so these locomotives have really overstayed, or really have been out of the picture for well too long. They really have gone up there just like the Santa Fe 3000 class, the famous 210-10-2s that were dead on arrival, and you can actually go into my channel and watch my review of the last release of the Santa Fe 3000s Lionel made in the Vision Line fleet. Sorry, I had to take a tea break. And in this case, the Norfolk and Western is definitely prevalent. Comparing the prices, thankfully Lionel has actually kept the Y6b price tag from 2014 the same. The 2024 price tag is at $2,000, and the 2014 price tag is also at a whopping $2,000, or in this case, new for 2015. Well, that means they were produced in 2015, but they were issued in the 2014 Volume 2 catalog. So it is really nice. Now, Lionel did update these models quite handsomely. In this case, they went ahead and added the safety valve steam. Why not? It has become quite popular in a lot of Lionel's Vision Line locomotives, so it is nice that it is continuing on into the legacy range instead of being exclusively Vision Line, like Lionel likes to do with a lot of their steam features, or more like smoke features or oil vapor features. They've also updated the electronics to include all of the new additional features such as 5 whistles, 5 bells, and also the 4-digit addressing with the updated crew talk. The minimum curve radius is still 0.72 and should still have the same amazing detail as the original JLC TMCC Rail Sounds 5.0 Y6bs and even the 2014 versions. Now, Lionel did produce a set, and we'll get to that later on in this video. For road names, besides NNW, Lionel is also offering the Pennsylvania Railroad, the Santa Fe, Union Pacific, and the Great Northern. All of these having different kinds of road-specific details, still the same features, and also different paint schemes, such as the Great Northern having a green boiler, Great Northern goat standing on its rock kind of logo, Pennsylvania in the Brunswick green, Santa Fe in the nice Santa Fe styled lettering and numbering. In this case, it's engine number 1800, and the Union Pacific being, well, the Union Pacific. Then we get into something that hasn't been seen since 2018, and that is the USRA Light Mountains. In 2018 Volume 2 catalog, Lionel came back with these beautiful mountains from the teams, brought it out from the TMCC era all the way up into the modern light of Legacy, and Lionel has decided to bring him back after a number of years, which is so very nice because this is one of the few wheel arrangements I do not have, and of course they would make one and technically 4 road names I would very much like to have, but it may be out of my budget. For price comparison, the 2018 Volume 2 version of the USRA Mountains had a reasonable price tag of $1,400, and in this case they offered the Mountains in a nice arrangement of road names, some that I really wished I could have gotten but did not have a job, so who cares. Now, in comparison to the 2024, Lionel has upped the ante by $300 with a MSRP price tag of $1,600. Still strange considering these models were not produced very long ago, but still increased the price tag between $300 to $400. Now, for the road names, Lionel has made, again, a nice effort in producing these models in a wide variety and then some. In this case, Lionel is producing the Alaska Mountain, Seaboard Mountain in a short Vanderbilt tender, the NCNSTL, which is the Dixie route, in other words, with a short Vandy tender, the New Haven in a long Vandy tender. In comparison, the last mountain I showed you in New Haven had a standard coal tender, so it's nice to see another variation, especially with the beautiful Alesco feed water heater on top of the smoke box. The fabled Southern Green Mountain number 1490, the Tennessee Central, and then 2 others that I saved for last because these models are a little bit different because they have a $1,700 price tag and they have brass oil tenders, similar to that was seen with the L1 Mikados from a couple years ago. In this case, they are Santa Fe, definitely going to be on my shopping list, and then the Texas and Pacific in the beautiful blue and creamish white paint scheme. A road name we have not seen since the early days of the 1990s in the Richard Kuhn era when Lionel produced the 482 Mohawks, the early Mohawks, in the Texas and Pacific, and was considered a specialty model and was offered with a display case. So I'll highly likely get the Santa Fe. The Texas and Pacific, depending on my budget, may end up in the cart as well, so we'll just have to see. Minimum curve radius is 0.54, so a long unit, but still quite nice. Then we get into Heavy Mikados. Sticking with the USRA theme, in this case the Heavy Mikados were an updated and beefier design to the USRA Light Mikados, and in this case Lionel again is offering some nice road names such as the Central New Jersey, the EJ&E, or the US styled Mikado, Great Northern, Sioux, P&LE, and the Louisville and Nashville USRA Heavy Mikados. In comparison, the last time these locomotives were ever seen would have been the 2015 Volume 1 catalog, if I could get over there. There we go. And in this case, there was not a lot of variations in Mikado road names, well, actually there was a few, from that time period, and in this case, the price tag for it would have been $1,300, which in this case, Lionel has yet again brought up price, but in this case, I believe is a little bit more reasonable. From $1,300, they increased the price tag by $100 and brought it to $1,400. Considering that this model is almost 10 years since it was last seen, correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, I probably am. There was probably another release I forgot that was sooner, but considering that it has almost been, well, it's been 9 years since the 2015 release, and there was only a $100 increase, this is a really nice deal. In this case, you do get whistle steam with it, updated electronics, but you cannot get this locomotive on shorter curve radius because it is 23 inches long, so you're stuck with a minimum curve radius of 0.54. And then we're getting towards the end of the steam, and in this case we are at some more shunters, the 060s. The 060s have been seen not too long ago, a few years ago, so nothing too crazy, just some more road names with a $900 price tag. Swinging bell features, which is a nice touch considering you really don't have a lot of room within these locomotives, but you do have a lot of road names such as the Atlantic Coast, B&O, Chicago and Northwestern, Grand Trunk, Nickel Plate, and the Union Pacific. So I could see these being nice yard goats on a lot of layouts. Then we get into the sets themselves. As stated earlier with the Y6bs, Lionel is offering 2 Steam sets the end of this year. And previously, like the other GG1 set, I have also crunched the numbers to determine whether or not these sets are actually worth it, or if it would be cheaper to actually purchase the cars individually as well as the locomotives individually. And in this case, there is some mixed results. Starting at the top with the Mountain, the New Haven Mountain set. This set includes the New Haven Mountain with a different road number, a Sounds car, State of Maine insulated box car, an AC2 covered hopper, and also a New Haven caboose. In this case, based off of previous box cars and also some cars that are offered within this catalog, I have determined the $2,000 price tag for the set altogether is actually cheaper than purchasing them individually, based purely on what I have found roughly and estimated. The estimated difference is about $100, so $2,100 will get you everything that you see in the set. So in this case, yes, the New Haven set is a better deal. In my opinion, I do not think $2,000 is quite worth the amount of cars you get with a massive locomotive. I would much rather see 4 cars be behind an SW1, such as some kind of branch line or manifest train that is going down some local line instead of a massive USRA mountain that typically goes down the main line with many more cars behind it. So in this case, overall, in comparison, yes, it is a better deal, but in reality, I would much rather see a few more cars, or at least a couple other cars that have more interest rate and more value than compared to what we have for $2,000. And then for the final mega set of the year, it is the N&W King Cole set. Something that I am also debating because it is such a very nice set. And in this case, this is actually where things fall apart when it comes to good or bad pricing between the set and individual. In this case, the individual option is actually a better option than compared to the set. The set itself includes 12 3-bay coal cars, a caboose, and then the Y6b itself. All of this gives you a price tag of $3,000. Now, later in this catalog, Lionel actually offers 2 3-packs of these 3-bay coal hoppers for $250 per 3-pack, which ends up being $500 total. Now, for the caboose, I did forget to include that in the price, but roughly the cabooses are about $200, so you are looking at $2,700 worth of train set for $3,000. In my opinion, the set itself is quite worth it, in the fact that you actually get a complete N&W coal train that would have been prototypical with the Y6bs. If you had oodles of money like a few modelers in the YouTube community, you could get a double header or even a push-pull service, which you would typically see on the N&W line. Get the other 3-packs and make a massive coal drag that would be typical in the Virginian mountains of the Norfolk and Western, and really make a nice set. I know there were many people when the original Y6bs came out in 2014 were like, well, now I gotta go and get a bunch of 3-bay coal hoppers or just coal hoppers period because, well, that's what these freight engines hold. So really it is quite a nice set, and in my opinion would definitely be a good set to get individually instead of going with the set itself, unless you don't have an N&W caboose, then you kind of really need to get the actual set itself. For the cabin cars are at a price tag of $125. So actually, for the Y6b set, you are looking at $26.50 for individual set instead of $3 grand. So this thing just keeps getting better individually. In this case, nothing fancy, just standard and interior LED lighting. No smoke, unfortunately. I don't believe... No smoke inside the cabin cars. For $125, definitely increasing the price tag for a decent-sized caboose. And in this case, Lionel's offering some nice road names, Conrail or NS, the Long Island, Pennsylvania, and Penn Central. Pennsylvania Reading Seashore lines, definitely a nice addition for those branch-off lines for the Pennsylvania Railroad. Another Long Island and Penn Central in the Vision line run-up with the $300 price tag, making these cabin cars have sounds, LED lighting, and whatnot, as discussed earlier. Then we get into some more scale box cars. In this case, the box cars are the X31s at a price tag of $100 a piece. Nice road names of Pennsylvania, a lot of Pennsylvania, Penn Central, and the Seaboard. Then we get into some flat cars. The flat cars are actually quite nice. In this case, they are the heavy-duty flat cars as seen in the Space Rocket set, where they had each individual booster rockets on, or booster rocket parts. In this case, they are offered in nice road names at $170 a pop. The AEC, which does glow in the dark, Bethlehem Steel, DODX, TTX, and also the Westinghouse. There we go. Westinghouse. Nice opportunity to make some unique modern freight sets, which I know a lot of people have been wanting, especially my friend. Then we get into some 8,000-gallon tank cars, steam era tank cars. In this case, Lionel is offering two price ranges, your standard tank cars, and then also an AEC 8,000-gallon tank car at $130, which actually has a liquid load that can be viewed from the inside. Very nice. I know Lionel's been going back to the AEC lineup, so nice additions to that. For the standard 8,000-gallon tank cars, the price tag is at $100. Lionel's been sticking around that upper range lately. Used to, these cars would be around $80 back in 2017, if I remember correctly. So, nothing fancy, but also kind of hurts to go and pay $100 for a car that really doesn't have much in it. Lionel's also continuing their Hotbox Reefer return, in this case yet even more road names with a $300 price tag, and is also offering some more piggyback cars. In this case they are offering two U.S. Army versions, Chicago Northwestern, the Pacific Electric, nice paint scheme, got a feeling that's going to go hot, as well as the Alaska Railroad, similar to the Alaska Railroad 6464 boxcar from the post-war era. Another road name I think will go quite well, with a price tag of $160. More boxcars, the Ribside boxcars, one that I don't remember seeing that often. In this case, a nice array of Milwaukee Road variations in the $80 price range. And similar to the freight set, the New Haven freight set, here are some standard AC-2 covered hoppers. In this case, the standard price tag is at $85. Nice road names. Definitely going to be something that I can see a lot of transition era or early diesel era railroads going and purchasing. Then we got some modern 4-bay covered hoppers with some graffiti and also some weathering on it. I know a friend that's going to be in a lot of trouble with these because he loves rust and he also loves the graffiti, specifically the graffiti. Now, the cars themselves, considering they have been dirtied up, actually have a decent price tag of $100 a pop. Now, this is something I would much rather see as an option for the 8,000-gallon tank cars and some of the other scale box cars and whatnot previously shown. Something that has some worth and value to it, because as of right now, those other cars really do not have any value, in my opinion, that warrants such a heavy price tag. And then we get into the 3-bay coal hopper cars that I was talking about earlier. Now, in this case, Lionel is offering a number of the road names for these 3-bay hoppers, and in this case, they are offering them in single cars for $85, and then two 3-pack. In this case, the 3 packs, as stated earlier, are $250, and they're offering them in the Alaska, B&O, CSX, C&O, and, of course, the N&W and PA road names. In this case, it would be fairly easy to go and purchase the 2 3-packs, a single pack of the N&Ws, and maybe even a single car of the C&O and B&O, make a nice freight coal train with the with a single Y6b. And if you already have an N&W caboose, or if you can find a cheaper N&W caboose, then very well you can, and actually get a nicer set, in my opinion, for a lot less than compared to actually going for the $3,000 set. Now, in addition to the 3-bay coal hoppers, Lionel is also offering the coal loads separately. In this case, you can get a 2-bay 6-pack, a 3-bay, or even a 4-bay coal hopper set for reasonable prices with a 6-pack of $24 a piece. In my opinion, not really bad, and is actually quite nice considering these coal loads look a lot better than the MTH in my opinion, and also a lot of people have a hard time going for actual coal loads, especially ones that are permanently attached to hoppers. So to have these separately applied coal hopper loads, very nice in my opinion. And then finally we are getting into the traditional O. In this case, there's not a lot of new stuff, and I'm really going to be passing through this because I really do not review much of this stuff, but I will go through the highlights. Starting off with the Lionmaster J3A Hudson. Now, we did go over the Halloween, but since this is where the specifics are at, we'll just go ahead and get into it. In this case, the J3As are the standard Lionmaster tooling that we saw earlier, but with updated Team CC electronics, which means you actually have legacy rail sound, so to speak, but with Team CC control. The locomotives have a minimum curve radius of 0.31, which is to be expected, but do have LED lighting, fan-driven smoke units, and also LED marker lights, which can be changed colors like your standard legacy units. These locomotives should be still in the die-cast metal, and you should still expect to get the die-cast metal boilers and die-cast metal detailing you would expect from the original Team CC Lionmaster locomotives. The price tag is still at $800, that not being any different compared to the Halloween. And in this case, Lionel's offering 3 New York Centrals, one in the standard New York Central paint scheme with some nice pinstriping along the running boards and tender, the Peacemaker, and also the gray lightning stripe style. And then to pay homage to Lionel itself, they are producing a 1900 Lionel Lines version, since, of course, Lionel was the one that actually made the Hudson class of locomotives so popular across the world in model form. Again, I may end up getting one of these, I don't know particularly, due to the price tag of it being, and also because there are a few other scale items that may end up in my shopping cart as a prevalent item than anything else, so as a result, it may end up being just a passing thought. For other LC Plus 2.0, Lionel is also offering GP38s, another Rail King version or tooling coming back into the limelight in Lionel's form. In this case, they are producing the CSX Canadian Seaboard System. I'm not going to try to go and pronounce that, but it is the P&L GP30, number 3803, and the Ohio Central. Definitely some road names that I can definitely see a lot of people going for, and with a reasonable price tag of $500. Again, since these are semi-scale locomotives, and they really don't have the greatest of separately applied details, I'm still not too convinced on the LC Plus 2.0 lineup being quite the greatest compared to price tag to detail. For a new Line Chief starter set, Lionel is introducing a CPKC Maxi Stack set with 3 Maxi Stack containers and container cars for a price tag of $380. I could see this going very well in hobby shops, but it is going to be kind of difficult for hobby shops to get these off the shelves. Not necessarily because this is a set that nobody would want or a road name that nobody wants, but more of the price tag. Now, if this set was offered as a specialty deal where it was a little bit closer to the $300 price range around Christmas time, then I can understand it. But as of now, coming out right out of the barrel, not necessarily. They are offering a separate card to add on to the set for $100, so still not the greatest, but I can definitely see being a good seller. Lionel's offering a new Area 51 recovery train set with a price tag of $430 and a couple of add-on cars such as another container car and a helicopter car for $100 and $90 respectively. They're also offering some new separately added details such as a tank car crash site, a famous accessory Lionel has produced for many years. In this case, it is in the Area 51 style, plug-and-play style, with $230. A hotbox reefer, a see-through 8,000-gallon scale tank car, and also a heavy-duty flat car, as well as Men in Black kind of Area 51 figures for $30. Definitely something I know somebody's going to be going through and probably going to be ordering. For specialty anniversary cars, nothing much in this case. They are producing the Denver, South Park, and Pacific Railroad 150th anniversary boxcar with the usual $100 price tag. Again, shocking to see Lionel is increasing the price tag on these boxcars, considering they had always been around the $80 price range forever, it feels like. So to see them increase it by $20 to $100 is still getting a little harder to go and swallow. Lionel is bringing back an updated version of the Fast Track grade crossing, so those of you who have had the grade crossing and Fast Track, well, they are coming back with a new version. And then we are finally reaching the end of the catalog. Lionel again is still advertising the Lionel Base 3 and the Cab 3 app, which has been added to the iOS and Google Play Store. I have gone through it a little bit, and it is quite nice, I think, in my opinion. But I haven't been able to go and use the Cab 3 command system yet because the Cab 3, or the Base 3, has not been released yet, nor has the Cab 3 itself. So Lionel's still doing some troubleshooting, and will probably come out later this month of July, hopefully. Now, necessarily whether or not I will be doing a review on the Base 3 will be determined based on my initial response of it and how I want to actually go and review the Base 3 itself. I'll probably end up leaving the actual procedure of actually using the Base 3 to Lionel, since they have produced many videos on how to set it up, use it with the app and other devices such as the Legacy Cab 1L and also the Cab 2 remote. But I probably will do a general review of me going over my likes, dislikes, and also concerns. So do stay tuned on a video or any updates that I may have in my community page. And for any kind of celebrating exclusive boxcars, Lionel's celebrating their 10th annual Lionel National Train Day, the December 7th of this year. In this case, this year's boxcar is actually quite nice, in my opinion. It offers some post-war look all the way up into the modern era look of some more modern sets and legacy items. Again, probably $100 since this is the semi-scale 64/64 style boxcar. But it is quite nice, and we'll probably try to end up getting one of these from a good friend I have in the Nashville Lionel store, possibly, and may end up getting it on the layout. Final bit of news before I sign off with this catalog would be Lionel is offering yet another giveaway. In this case, instead of it being a Polar Express anniversary set, it is a Vision Line GG1. Before I went ahead and started recording this video, I did go ahead and enter myself in for this GG1. I don't have any high hopes for this GG1, considering probably everybody and anybody that has gotten their hands on this catalog have already registered themselves for it, but it would be a nice surprise to go ahead and get it. And I mean, who wouldn't want to go and get this? So if you're a Lionel fan and would like a GG1, I would suggest go ahead and try your luck on it instead of actually trying to go for the lottery, since I would bet there's actually a better chance at winning the GG1 than trying to win money through the lottery and end up using the lottery money to purchase a GG1. But anyway, overall, I am quite impressed with the catalog. I am confused with the convoluted way Lionel has presented this catalog. I don't know if they were trying to switch it up to make it more interesting, or if for some reason their editing department just went on a hiatus and just was like, well, let's just go and make it all jumbled up. But overall, content-wise, I am very much in trouble between an electric, a diesel, which is surprising, and 2 steamers. I am very much in trouble between those 3 items because I really like them and they really do fit within the era of the layout I operate. And also they are items you really do not get to see very often, and if you do, they are either in the Team CC version with extreme price tags on the secondary market, or they just have some problems and are not worth going the hassle of trying to fix them in the long run. But anyway, the catalog itself was quite nice. I'll definitely be trying to get a hard copy of this and add it to my catalog collection because I believe it is a worthy contender to be one of the best Volume 2 catalogs we've seen in a while. Not a lot of head turners, but still a lot to offer, especially considering it's a Volume 2 catalog, and very nice opportunities for customers to go and purchase. I'm not too crazy about the differences in prices, but at the same time, I am kind of glad Lionel has added some updated items to some of their former models and still kept the price tag the same. Overall, I think it is a wonderful catalog. I would like to hear what you all would love to purchase or will be purchasing down in the comments below. I hope you found this review very helpful, and if so, I would appreciate it if you would support my channel by clicking on the like button, as that would allow me to know you actually enjoyed this video and actually found it useful. And if you would like to take the next step further and actually support my channel even further and no longer miss any of my future videos that I'll be producing in the near future, I would go ahead and suggest clicking on the subscribe button, as that will automatically add you to my Trainmaster 04 community and also will give you automatic updates through YouTube on when I produce new YouTube short videos and also long production videos like these and anything else in between. But anyway, my name is Trainmaster 04 and I will be seeing y'all next time.